Okay, welcome back to TeslaTech 2025. We're, I guess, starting with our first official speaker. We had one a workshop this afternoon, which was a little bit off the beaten path. Now we're starting the more formal presentations. And this first one's a doozy. Now, she's new to TeslaTech, Elana Freeland. But I am just now reading her book on geoengineered transhumanism. This is her fourth book. And her third book, the title is very similar, Geoengineering Transhumanism, I think it was called. And she has two others kind of on the same subjects, but she's an expert on many things. She's a writer, a teacher, and a lecturer, and she's been researching the deep state, as many of us know. She's been, her expertise lie in geoengineering, MKUltra, ritual abuse, targeting and invasive electromagnetic weapons. And I believe today's conversation is going to be focused mainly on the last. So we're going to be learning about HARP technologies, and we're going to be learning about nanobots and all those kinds of things. And I think everybody in this audience knows a little bit about all of those things. We're going to be hearing from someone who knows a lot about all those things. Please welcome Elana Freeland.
Hello, everyone. Does that sound all right?
Sounds good.
Okay. I just flew in at 4:30 from the Northwest. All right. So there's that. This is how I picture where I am, sort of riding a toroid through the universe. Okay, so just a little, just to give you a feel for it. That's the old model. Doesn't feel like 70,000 kilometers, does it? So that's good. That's good enough. Now I'm going to figure out, dedicated to the man, Nikola Tesla, whose technology was stolen and weaponized. Chemtrails HARP and the Full Spectrum Dominance of Planet Earth, which I wrote in 2014, was published by Feral House. Was translated into Serbian because Serbia is Tesla's homeland, and they asked me to allow them to translate it for their technical colleges because it's the only book they knew of that was really looking at how it's all been weaponized. So I felt very honored, and it is now still available at all the technical colleges in Serbia. I actually do better in Europe than I do here because here people don't read much anymore. They still read in Europe. All right, so you wanted to hear about me. That's where I start. Let me see what's next. Here's a young man who's preparing to be a reader when he grows up. That's the book that they translated. There's the new book, The Geoengineered Transhuman. This is where I start getting into the relationship between what's being geoengineered and falling down on us for us to breathe and take into our bodies, and the synthetic biology that is underway for transhumanism. And now I'm writing the book on synthetic biology. Takes a moment. Okay, I'll leave it there. Thank you for the invitation to speak on what geoengineering really is. Possibly because my father was a PhD inorganic chemist working for US Navy intelligence. His record sealed unto perpetuity in Washington, D.C. I've spent 20 years tracking down what highly classified geoengineering is really up to. Lies and cover stories continue to this day thanks to the National Security Act of 1947 and the primacy of the CIA. My friend and colleague, independent scientist Clifford Carnicom's impeccable work on the epigenetic assault on nature and Homo sapiens that he began documenting in the late 1990s remains marginalized, as are my books, all in the silent name of plausible deniability. In 1996, an important military document under Air Force 2025 was released, Weather as a Force Multiplier, Owning the Weather in 2025. Well, we're there, aren't we? This must be why geoengineering is now in state legislatures and the news, at least as for weather modification and cloud seeding. But weather is only one geoengineering operation of 7, which I will get to shortly. Bills in 30 or so state legislatures, like House Bill number 4304, Natural Resources and Environmental Protection Act in Michigan, are now allegedly attempting to protect people's lungs, keep lasers and masers from igniting wildfires, and loosing flooding so people will sell their homes for a song. Meanwhile, Peter Thiel-type big money is trying to prevent states from regulating the artificial intelligence that's running much more than the weather. As more and more people awaken to weaponized AI-run geoengineering, mainstream media adjusts the narrative to keep the public from probing beyond weather engineering to other operations going on. Decades of research into papers and patents have unveiled a transhumanist agenda under the secret space program, which geoengineering serves. The end objective being to covertly transform Homo sapiens into a, quote, directed evolution, unquote, molecular nano, in silico. In silico is Latin for sort of a computerized human being, sort of creature, by means of biotechnology, genetic engineering, molecular nanotechnology, electromagnetics, and artificial intelligence. Beyond weather control, geoengineering maintains an ionized atmosphere for a myriad of, quote, dual use, military and civilian, wireless operations that constitute assaults on Homo sapiens and our natural environment of air, soil, water, food, the sun, and even deep space. Slowly, what is natural is being replaced with an artificial, quote, metaverse, unquote, by means of a two-pronged big pharma assault of chemicals from above and in vivo CV19 injections below. Secret societies recognize this as above, so below. Our immune systems have been degraded by a century of pollutants, fake genetically modified foods, electromagnetics, and vaccines. Since 2021, self-assembling and self-replicating synthetic biology and nanotechnology, AI operating systems, and brain-computer interfaces are taking over our blood and our brains. It's time to buy a decent microscope and keep tabs on your blood while educating yourselves. Don't wait for the experts. About the invisible 5G, 6G networks that have turned our upper and lower atmospheres into a circuit board. And I do have a photo of that. Today, I present a broad outline of how this global system, referenced covertly as the smart grid and more recently as Stargate AI and the Golden Dome, has been set up for full spectrum dominance over our planet, our sun, and Homo sapiens' free will. I apologize for moving at lightning speed. You will have to read, analyze, and discuss elsewhere. I recommend forming local or online study groups. The rest of this week, I'll be available with my latest book at the book table, wherever that is. All right, so that's that. Now we move on. So the 7 geoengineering operations. This is well worth reading. And I see some people are taking notes, which is very wise. Even if it's just a few words to remind yourselves what you want to look at after. All right, so the geoengineering operations are, number 1, weather engineering. And that is a final. We are now engineering all the weather on the planet, to my knowledge. Number 2, chemical and electromagnetic operations. This would be electrical weather, volcanic eruptions, earthquakes, plasma antimatter experiments, and farming, plasma farming in our atmosphere. Manipulation of Birkeland currents, if you know what those are. Alvin Whistler waves, rotating electrical fields, plasma rotation under electromagnetic field stress to convert transverse waves to longitudinal waves, scalar, and vice versa, and create plasma mirrors. The third operation is planetary geophysical operations, wherein they utilize engineered droughts, fires, floods, hurricanes, tornadoes, earthquakes, storms, polar vortices, solar cycles for environmental modification and disaster capitalism, earth harvesting for REITs, rights, I guess you pronounce it, which are real estate investment trusts, like they did in North Carolina and on Maui. Solar experiments with laser and solar simulators. That's the second sun that you may see in the sky sometime. Number 4 operation is directed energy weapons. These include instabilities of systems and weaknesses exploited by means of remote applications of electromagnetic signatures, pulses, and frequencies. The one that you always think of when you're thinking about, I don't know what I'm going to do with this water. There. Scalar interferometry, and I'll talk about that today, of ionospheric heaters, lasers, masers, particle beams, high-powered microwaves. The 5th operation is surveillance and neural manipulation. Neural manipulation would be mind control and behavior control. AI, mind control, remote neural monitoring, electromagnetic frequency targeting of populations, 5G remote access to DNA. The 6th operation, this is all of geoengineering, mind you. The 6th operation is digital, synthetic biology, and nanotechnology deliveries and pulsing for the transhuman agenda. Hive mind pulsing, aerosols targeting GMO food fields, collusion with big medicine / big pharma for transhuman agenda, and that would include sensors, microprocessors, electro-optics, Morgellons, and other synthetic biology, and then remote biogenetic engineering, epi and optogenetics, via 5G, 6G networks. And then the 7th operation is probably the most fun, which is cloaking, obscuration, and detection of exotic propulsion craft in our skies, and ancient and experimental plasma life forms. So these are the 7 operations, and this was all from Clifford Carnicom in 2005. This is what he had been observing since the late 90s. Clifford is, let me go on here. Clifford Carnicom has a Bachelor of Science, cum laude, in surveying and photogrammetry, civil engineering, all at California State University, Fresno, California, postgrad at Ohio State University and Washington University, geodetic science, advanced mathematics, engineering, statistics, physical sciences, computer science, life sciences, associative sciences, and forest engineering degrees from the College of the Redwoods in Eureka, California. In 2008, he founded the Carnicom Institute, which focused on the impacts of geoengineering and bioengineering, and that is at carnicominstitute.org. All his papers are there. Circa 1984 to 1993, Carnicom was a technical research scientist supporting the analysis and development of major Department of Defense weapons modeling systems, after which he served as a professional computer consultant in Santa Fe, New Mexico for 17 years. I met him in the early 2000s when I was living in Santa Fe. Beside Carnicom is a microscope photo of a polymer fiber that he analyzed 25 years ago after finding bioengineered fibers like it both in the environment and in people's blood. Due to the national security status of synthetic biology, harnessed to biowarfare experimentation, only now do we hear about similar, quote, spider web filaments floating over Europe. Okay. Here's Clifford, what he reads, and I don't know if I have this on paper, so I may have to read there. I think I'll step down here, if that's all right. It can be demonstrated that the introduction of essentially any metallic or metallic salt, aerosol, into the lower atmosphere will have the effect of heating up that lower atmosphere, thus the global warming story that they have promulgated. The impact is both significant and measurable. Those who seek and express concern about the so-called global warming program might wish to begin their search with an inquiry into the thermodynamics of artificially introduced metallic aerosols into the lower atmosphere. An examination of the specific heat characteristics of an altered atmosphere will provide the path for the realistic conclusions that can be made. Any claim that the aerosol operations represent a mitigating influence on the global warming problem appears to be a complete facade in direct contradiction to the fundamental principles of physics and thermodynamics. The lack of candor and honesty by government, media, and environmental protection agencies in response to public inquiry is further evidence of the fictitious fronts that have been proposed. That was in 2004. So this is just a review here, a few things for review. This is the electromagnetic spectrum. What I want to call your attention to is you can see where we have all sorts of what are actually called Hertzian waves. We use hertz in order to measure them. And then you have the visual right there at that little juncture, what we can see, taste, touch, smell as human beings. Very narrow, extremely narrow. We don't know what a gamma wave looks like with our senses. We don't know what radio waves look like with our senses. But it is on the very border of the non-Hertzian electromagnetics that start with the ultraviolet. So just let's keep that in mind. It's hard for us to deal with invisibles because we're so accustomed to making everything visual that we're going to believe in. I think we're going to need to study in order to see now. Sorry. Just a reminder of the definitions of frequency using hertz. So we're accustomed to most of these, some of them not. Particularly kilohertz, we know what that is, 1,000 cycles per second. Megahertz, 1 million cycles per second. The gigahertz, 1 billion cycles per second. And now we're dealing with 6G is up and running as well. And that is 1 trillion cycles per second. So it's getting more and more intense, and our bodies are simply not made for this kind of intensity. That's what I was talking about. This is the non-Hertzian, and the Hertzian, that's getting cut off up there. But the infrared, ultraviolet, X-ray, and gamma are all non-Hertzian. And what does that mean? These waves differ from traditional Hertzian waves in their potential to interact with matter at the quantum level. So that's what I meant by that sort of silly little chart about now we're not having any of the Einsteinian this and that, and now we're having ether science. This is kind of what it's about, is no matter how we argue about how we define quantum, we're entering another level of reality is what's going on. And then the Hertzian waves are transverse, and those are the ones that we're very familiar with hearing about. The electric and magnetic fields oscillate perpendicular to the direction of wave propagation. That's ELFs, VLFs, LFs, HF, VHF, UHF, and EHF. Just a reminder, I know you probably all know this. Geoengineering serves the secret space program, which includes transhumanism. Now, that's a bold statement I'm making. The other person making that same, very similar bold statement is the investment analyst, Catherine Austin Fitts, who is a friend of mine. And Catherine just recently came out with a Tucker Carlson interview that I just watched a few days ago, April 28, 2025, in which she's talking about the secret space program. So if you think that it doesn't exist, you might want to check out what she's saying. She's the one who, with her friend Mark, an economics professor at Michigan State University, they went through and found where the $21 trillion missing from the American budget might be, and it might be with the secret space program. Or as she calls it also, the breakaway civilization that is utilizing our money for their own plans. Van Allen belt problem. This might be a reason for the a partial reason for the transhuman movement. And this has to do with, the old saw about not going to the moon. I don't know, is the sound working for this one? Can you hear it?
So NASA engineer Kelly Smith is on there, he's explaining stuff, but he says something really interesting. So let's check this out.
As we get further away from Earth, we'll pass through the Van Allen belts, an area of dangerous radiation. Radiation like this could harm the guidance systems, onboard computers, or other electronics on Orion. Naturally, we have to pass through this danger zone twice, once up and once back. But Orion has protection. Shielding will be put to the test as the vehicle cuts through the waves of radiation. Sensors aboard will record radiation levels for scientists to study. We must solve these challenges before we send people through this region of space.
Wait a minute. We must solve this issue before sending people through this space? What happened during the moon missions? Didn't they go through the Van Allen belt as well? So, I don't know. Just wanted to point out this discrepancy where in this video, this guy is talking about how the equipment can fail and the navigation can fail and we're going to have to figure this out before we put people through it. Well,
that's the truth. And here is what the secret space program is following as a theoretical map is Nikolai Kardashev. He was a Soviet astrophysicist, I believe. And he has his own plan of what a civilization needs to accomplish in order to have a real space age. And so he has this very interesting little map. The type 1 is full spectrum dominance over the planet. And when I say full spectrum dominance, that's a military doctrine. And it has to do with controlling the entire radio spectrum that we just looked at earlier with our very narrow aperture for the humans. Then the type 2 is full spectrum dominance over our star, over the sun. And that there are many, such as the so-called solar eclipse last summer. Well, that was geoengineered. That was not natural. It had all the signs and wonders that go with it. And so there are many things going on that they're doing with the sun. And then type 3 will be our own planetary system, but mainly the galaxy. Now, it sounds pretty imaginative, but this is actually something that they are pursuing. There is my second book, Under an Ionized Sky. This is the book that, if anybody remembers Billy Hayes was he called himself an erection specialist with a laugh, and he worked for the military regarding all of these installations around the world that have to do with electromagnetics and the governance of our solar system. So Billy led me through that, and I'm grateful to him. He's now dead 2 or 3 years. This is in that book, and this is the beginning of what I call the space fence, and what it seems Mr. Trump is referring to as the Stargate AI. This patent has to do with this metallic ring, very similar to Saturn, that is going around the equator of the Earth. And this is the only video I know of that actually addresses this.
A human-made barrier around Earth, protecting against the natural particle radiation in space. They believe the bubble was formed by very low-frequency waves, or VLFs. VLFs have been found to interact with the particles in space, affecting how and where they move. VLFs are used for radio communications, including with submarines, because they can penetrate deep into the ocean. The waves can also travel far into the environment around Earth. By understanding more about how VLF transmissions help shape our space environment, we learn more about this complex region surrounding us. The more we know, the more situational awareness we have to protect our satellites from natural radiation in space.
So we know what VLF is, very low frequency. and that is Hertzian. And that is probably, for my estimation, that's the beginning of the space fence that Lockheed Martin is so proud of, is this ring around the planet, which is great for communications, yes, it is, but there is a lot more going on with it that has to do with control over this planet. So now this, okay, then I can go from there. We also have magnetite in our blood, in our brain, and this and then this. With magnetic nanoparticles, scientists remotely control neurons and animal behavior. It looks like magnetism is very much being controlled in order to control us and our behavior. This is something that needs much study because we have this ring high above the planet, and then we have other things going on here, like the old Montauk project you probably remember. This is our geomagnetic grid. This particular one that I'm showing is not arbitrary. This was made by Bruce Cathy, if all of you know who he was. He was probably, well, he's certainly the greatest harmonics mathematician I've ever encountered. And he is now dead as well. Many of our greats are passing on. So here, how I define this, Earth's magnetic fields are comprised of an overall static field, magnetic rock formations, Schumann and now HARP resonances, solar flares, tectonic plate movements, telluric currents, and cosmic radiation, each contributing to the overall magnetic environment in which humans have evolved from germination to the embryo to the adult who spends his entire life within the Earth's magnetic fields. Tesla understood the global grid and how the ground waves can be pulsed to make the conductive ionosphere act like a closed waveguide. And this has been accomplished by HARP. And then this, which I think is very cool. So this is something HARP with its tomographic capabilities, which are what it uses to make earthquakes, and the scalar waves themselves can produce lightning coming up from the electromagnetic grid. And then this is, what does it say? This is infrared. This is the infrared system in space, or in the upper atmosphere and space, right on the edge, by which I feel they are controlling everything down here now. This is Lockheed's baby, and Lockheed is very attached to this system. And it's something that we need to understand of how the mind control and behavior control and the transhuman movement will occur. The transhuman movement think less of genetics and more of electromagnetics for the transhuman situation, which this next book is going to be all about. Just to remind you, again, another reminder from high school science, you've got different levels, right? We live in the troposphere. I just traveled on a plane in the stratosphere. Then you have these other spheres. There's also a plasma sphere that's not on here. And then you have the ionosphere, which is important because the people who created HARP control the ionosphere now. And that gives them basically the keys to the kingdom of planet Earth. And you're going to, I'll show something in it just a moment. So, space fence lockdown delivery systems, big pharma chemical trails from commercial and military jets, drones, and rockets. Satellites, NEXRAD radiation on the Earth. Rain, snow, fog, all the energy can be drawn from them and use them as well. GMO foods. I have foods in quotations because the seed used to make GMO foods, which many of you are probably still eating, is completely synthetic, or mostly synthetic. So I don't quite see the reason to eat it. Though, when I go to a restaurant, I eat very gratefully. It's very fun. But I try to eat food that is organic, despite the fact that all this stuff is falling on the organic plots as well. And then that last part is the inoculation. That's another delivery system. They all go together. And here, just to show you what a contrail looks like, because I keep being asked about the contrail chemtrail thing, which is so far in my past, it's like I don't even want to respond to it. These are chemtrails. They're long, contiguous. They'll become clouds. But look at the little guy up top. Can you see him? That's a contrail. And see how it's evaporating as the jet goes. All the fuel now is chemical. There is no contrail that I know of. Notice how many trails there are. In other words, the chemicals in the chemtrails are not just coming from the engine compartment. They're coming from the wings and a duct system. Good enough. And then these are a couple of examples of clouds. Okay, there's one. Notice, Notice how fragmented it looks around the edges, very uncloud-like. That's from the chemical signature of this particular kind of cloud. And if you become, if we get more books out or collect more photos or whatever, we can become a little bit of an expert on these signatures. Clifford is very good at this, and I've gotten better through him. There's another one, that ragged edge. And I'm saying here, just for the chemtrails, contrail, chemtrails form at 30,000 plus feet altitude at a temperature of -40 centigrade or -40 Fahrenheit, which surprised me, with 67% humidity. Chemtrails are laid above 28,000 feet. Commercial airlines at 32 to 34,000 feet. U.S. Air Force distance standard for trails. Contrails begin one wingspan behind the aircraft. Chemtrails begin straight out of the engine compartment. And then I have artificial plasma density clouds. That's what these are. These are artificial. These aren't real clouds. They're chemical clouds. I guess that's real, but it's not the clouds of yesteryear. Artificial plasma density clouds were allegedly first introduced in the upper atmosphere by DARPA in 2013 with the U.S. Naval Research Laboratory Plasma Physics Division using the 3.6 megawatt high-frequency HARP transmitter to do it. The story is that the densest clouds are used as artificial plasma mirrors. I'll have a picture of that in a little bit, to deflect solar radiation conducting nanoparticles and scatter sunlight back into space. But the truth is practically invisible. They spread advanced engineered nanotech, smart dust, everywhere, for the Internet of Things. That's the reality of what we're facing now. This is really cool. I guess they're doing this. This is the use of ultrasound to produce the atmospheric whiteout we call a clear day.
An aircraft comprising a gas turbine engine that exhausts a plume of gases in use. The aircraft comprises an ultrasound generator having an ultrasound actuator and a waveguide to direct ultrasonic waves at the exhaust plume to avoid the formation of contrails.
So I think that's going on now. A lot of people write me and say, oh, clear day, no chemtrails, Elana. And I think, well, they're using the ultrasound. I don't know if I'm right. The people speak here.
You've heard me talk about the 5G towers and how it's not for internet at all. It's a microwave weapon developed by the military to be used on the citizens. Take a look at this video.
They started at 9/11 at night until 9/11 in the morning. You see the pulse going from the east to the west coast. All right, boom, you see that? Those are NEXRAD stations. Each of those towers are 750 kilowatts, pumping out between 2.7 to 2.9 gigahertz in the microwave range. This is roughly the same frequency as your microwave oven.
Now, there are tons and tons of whistleblowers coming out about this technology and how dangerous and damaging and deadly it is. This is not for internet. You want to know if it's true? Go right up to one of those damn towers and see how good your service is. It's still gonna suck. These things are not for internet service or communications. It's a weapon. They are frying you with microwaves while you sleep. If you saw in the video, did you notice where it wasn't? Where they weren't microwaving the population while they slept? All the areas of the country that are the least populated. Is that by accident? Those microwaves just magically don't go to those certain areas of the country? No, there's no reason to do it there. There's very few people that live there compared to the populated areas of the country that have huge cities in them. That's where you notice they are microwaving you to death. Are you feeling sick? Are you feeling lethargic? You can't think straight. You're not sleeping well. You're having crazy dreams. All of this stuff is radiation poisoning. Look up the symptoms of radiation poisoning. You're going to see they identically match a lot of your symptoms that you're having. Funny enough, it also matches a lot of the symptoms of COVID. Crazy how that works. So I'm telling you guys, you have got to understand what's happening. And they're talking about putting up 4 times the amount of towers in the next 4 years. Why would they need that? We can prove that it's not for internet, it's not for cell phone service. So why? You need to start asking yourself, why are they putting these things up at an unprecedented rate and then lying to your face about what they're for? Reach out, let's connect, let's figure out the plan of how we stop this.
So here are the, I don't know, is this still working? These are ingredients in chemical spraying in 2019. Testing, 1, 2, 1, 2.
Questions until Q&A.
Huh?
We frown on questions because nobody can hear it. So Q&A time will do.
Okay, but this is important to see. These are just to read the list. And then I've got another list I just want you to take a peek at in a moment. Here's the jet stream, and this is where I wanted you to hear about the chemical spraying. Weather engineering needs control over the jet stream, and we do have control over the jet stream. Natural weather rises in the South Pacific off the coast of the Amazon rainforest. Then, if allowed to continue naturally, it will flow east. The Amazon rainforest clouds transport natural nanoparticles into the upper atmosphere where the temperature is negative 55 degrees Celsius, which is negative 67 Fahrenheit. and 1.5 nanometer particles agglomerate and become condensation nuclei, 50 to 70 nanoparticles, nanometers, at last producing giant convective clouds that bring rain. That's the natural cycle. Weather nucleation, modification, can begin with chemical trails from jets, ship tracks over the ocean, wildfire smoke along the American West Coast, or chemi-ion nucleation from the engine compartment for force multiplying and extreme weather events, which may also require lasers and masers or ionospheric heaters, heater infusions from the ionosphere. So that gives you a sense of the jet stream. It's been as far south as Texas. I remember that a few years ago. Do you remember? They dragged it down there just to show off, probably. Then here, 55 undeclared chemical elements found in COVID-19 vaccines from AstraZeneca, CanSino, Moderna, Pfizer, Sinopharm, Sputnik 5, and Precise ICP-MS. So do some of these chemicals in that list match with the other? Yes, they do. So we've got a dual assault going on, one from the sky, one from the earth. 55, boron, calcium, titanium, aluminum, arsenic, nickel, chromium, copper, gallium, strontium, niobium, molybdenum, barium, and hafnium, chromium, and arsenic, and cerium. So the researchers concluded that given the diversity and notable presence in all brands, along with the particular characteristics of the elements found, it is unlikely the findings were due to contamination or accidental adulteration. In other words, the chemicals are intentional. My guess is they work synergistically with the chemicals in the serums. So now we come to the great HAARP, great acronym, High Frequency Active Auroral Research Program. Used to be Project. Here I have a quotation that I wanted to read from Quantum Tumblr on the internet. I thought it was pretty good, actually. And that is, wait, let me get that for you. High Frequency Active Auroral Research Program, officially atmospheric ionosphere research, truthfully a weaponized harmonic override array. It is a weapon system, my friends, of very severe capability and multiple levels, not just one thing. This is a multi-level weapon. HAARP is an extremely powerful ionospheric heater in a global network of 260 or so sky heaters spread across the world under a sustained cloud deck loaded with varying forms of smart dust in service to C5ISR, command, control, communications, computers, combat, intelligence, surveillance, reconnaissance. This is Tesla's infamous magnifying transmitter, the TMT. All are engaged in ULF, ELF modulation and manipulation of the ionospheric fluctuation known as the auroral jet or the electrojet, where the Van Allen radiation belts intersect our atmosphere. Phased array antennas are capable of being bound into an incredibly powerful beam whose effective radiative power, ERP, is multiplied to billions of watts. Now that's a weapon. In the lower atmosphere, HAARP depends upon extremely low frequency waves, ELFs, and the doping, a military term, doping of the conductive nanoparticles in the chemtrails. Calibrated timing with other ionospheric heaters and pulsed waves via high-frequency interfering transmission beams makes for a powerful weapon system. Whether it's weather, including the wildfires, mind control, or behavior control. Let's see, this is, in 1996, the Air Force 2025 program went public about making weather into a force multiplier. Until 2013, the US Air Force and Navy, Pentagon's DARPA, and Geophysical Institute at the University of Alaska Fairbanks conducted HAARP beam weapon experiments on the ionosphere, 49 to 428 miles above us, until control over the ionosphere was assured by ions spiraling down along the magnetic field lines that bind the Earth's upper and lower atmospheres. So let's see what I've got next here. Scalar HAARP waves in plasma cloud cover. Oh, you won't get to see this. These are these scalar waves just like the ones here. Those are the kinds of waves you will see just before an earthquake. Ah, there it is. So that's good to see that. Now this is very important, and I'm doing it, whenever I do this in public, I want you to realize it's important for you to hear. It's still up on the internet, which I'm absolutely amazed it is. But I think it's because it's a pretty done deal what they're doing with HAARP and with the entire geoengineering instrument. This is this is important to hear because this has to do with how they tried to convince us in 2013 that they were taking HAARP down. It didn't work. They were thinking about just destroying it. And the truth is, HAARP is still very alive and well to this day because it's an extraordinary weapon system. And here we have the Council, the Alaska Senate Committee in 2014.
Chairman, and thank you to
so
all
let's
of you this
listen to
morning.
DARPA and the Air Force.
I wanted to ask a couple questions here about HAARP, the High Frequency Active Auroral Research Program. Several of you at the table have a little bit of a piece here. As you know, this is located up in Alaska. It's currently funded by the Air Force Research Lab. It was formerly funded by the Office of Naval Research. One of the prime customers is DARPA, which is currently running experiments at the facilities here. So questions to several of you this morning. I'm told by the president of the University of Alaska that the Air Force has pulled its support for the facility and they're taking steps to demolish it or take it down this summer. He's making the argument that there is other opportunities for us and is trying to find a path where the university might be able to take title to the facility. I'd like to start with you, Dr. Prabhakar. I understand that a lot of folks here on the committee probably don't understand what HAARP does. I think most Alaskans don't really know what HAARP does or why the agency is involved in it. So a very brief explanation and then a more direct question. Would you be disappointed or would you lose something if HAARP were to go away?
Senator Murkowski, as I think you know, one of our programs has been using the HAARP facility for the research that it's pursuing. And my understanding is that we did get value out of that interaction. The P in DARPA is projects, and we're not in the business of doing the same thing forever. So very naturally, as we conclude that work, we're going to move on to other topics. So it's not an ongoing need for DARPA, despite the fact that we had actually gotten some good value out of that infrastructure in the past.
Understood. Then to Dr. Walker and Mr. Schaefer then, Dr. Walker, your agency is currently running the facility. I've mentioned that it's our understanding through the president of UAF that the plans are to move forward and demolish the facility this summer. So the question to you is that accurate? Can you explain why? And then perhaps to both you and Mr. Schaefer, is there any benefit in exploring a potential relationship with the University of Alaska to perhaps take over the harbor?
Thank you, Senator. The Air Force has gotten great value out of HARP in the past. We took over from the Navy and managed it and actually did a number of experiment campaigns up there and have finished our work that we're interested in doing up there. We've moving on to other ways of managing the ionosphere, which the HARP was really designed to do, was to inject energy into the ionosphere, be able to actually control it. And, but that work has been completed. The Air Force has maintained the site for other government agencies to use for several years now. And with DARPA completing their project, that's our last government customer that we have in the site.
So there it is, all right? Control over the ionosphere. You control the ionosphere, you control the planet, you control the weather of the planet, for certain. I have one more thing to read, which kind of goes with this. What HARP really does, disrupts the ionosphere. The ionosphere isn't just atmospheric, it's a planetary frequency membrane. It conducts Earth's brain waves, including Schumann resonance. But of course, we don't have the Schumann resonance anymore. We now have 4 hertz, not 7.83. We don't have that anymore. It conducts Earth's brain waves, including the Schumann resonance. HARP injects high-frequency pulses that fracture coherence, severing the connection between humans and Earth's natural rhythms. This is a problem, my friends. This is a big problem. That's why I've spent 20 years of my life on this, I guess. So here, I just want to quote Rosalie Bertell. She was a magnificent epidemiologist. She wrote a book called Planet Earth, the Latest Weapon of War, a critical study into the military and the environment. Rosalie is dead now, but she said the ability of the HARP/Space Lab rocket combination to deliver very large amounts of energy comparable to a nuclear bomb anywhere on Earth via laser and particle beams is frightening. So thank you, Rosalie, for reminding us. I would like to have the time, in fact, I may do that in a 15-minute interview over here because my time is almost gone. But I want you to see one thing. This is important, but I'll do that in the interview. This is important. I'll do it in the interview. This is important. I'll do it in the interview. But here's what I want you to see. This is Barry Trower. Some of you may know Barry from the internet. He was trained in England by the Royal Navy to be a microwave expert. And Barry has something very serious to say here that ties this whole thing to the synthetic biology situation that we are now mired in.
It is now possible to genetically change bacteriums and virus, genetically change them. What has been developed now is if bacterium, they can lay, and yeasts, they can lay in the soil for hundreds of years in a dormant stage. And it's known by grave diggers or people who dig up old graves that it's possible when light comes on the bacterium to regenerate the bubonic plague that's been laying in the ground for several hundred years. It only wants that particular frequency and bang, it's active again. You don't need more than 2 brain cells to work out where you go from here. Viruses are neither dead nor alive. They inhabit hosts. If I put a virus inside a dormant bacteria that I know I can spring to life, I go to Norway on a holiday, or Denmark, or Sweden, I just spread the virus around the forests with the dormant bacteria, and I come back. And I can wait, if I like, 100 years, 200 years, or 2 hours. Makes no difference to me. And then all I have to do with HAARP or a similar device is put the frequency, the microwave frequency off the ionosphere, down onto Norway, whenever I feel like it. The virus will spring to life because their host has sprung to life. This is where we are. So countries can now, just by introducing bacteriums and viruses and whatever, they can totally devastate the economic possibilities of another country.
So, yeah, I did want you to see that. I'll pause here, but I did want to say that the virus is, anyone who follows me on the internet knows that I'm with Tom Cowan, the doctor, and Andy Kaufman, doctor, who say there is no virus. I'm in the same camp. But I have discovered, by reading the book, The Sleeping Agent, which is about the beginning of biowarfare in America by a Nazi scientist, I did discover that you can do a gain of function on a bacteria or a protein, and you can turn it into something you then call a virus. And we the people, we don't know the difference, because we're going from the experts, right? So even though I may disagree a little bit with Barry there, not really. And so I am going to do the 15 minutes, and you can follow that there. And I will do synthetic biology, but if I come back next year or you see me somewhere else, I will have written the book on synthetic biology, and I will make many references to live blood analysis and all that is going on right now regarding that. All right, thank you so much for having me.
Elana Freeland. Okay, let me explain what's going on. First of all, Kent Bakken, Steve Ellswick would like to see you in the garden room. Hopefully you're here. Secondly, we've got 5 minutes for questions, only 5 minutes. So please come on up here and we'll have a Q&A. And then following that, there'll be about 15 minutes where Elana will be over here talking with Karen Elkins. And you're welcome to listen to that. That won't be in the house. And like I said, the last 15 seconds of that we'll bring that up, and then we'll introduce the next speaker at 6:30. So that's the plan. So go ahead with your question.
Tom Bailey, I see all of this happening, but I'm a scientist, and there's always positive and negative. And all I'm hearing is the negative. Are there positives? I mean, this is like everything's against us. And another question is, who are these people that know all of this garbage? And how have they hidden it from us? And is there any positive, or is it all just negative?
I wish I could think of something positive to say. I think it's gone too far now. 20 years ago, we might have been able to have a dialogue of some sort, but that is not what's going on now with the secret space program. They are gung-ho for space, and they will do anything in order to have it.
Can you say briefly how you create an earthquake with scalar waves?
There's a wonderful little video on the internet where a scientist shows how you can create an earthquake with just frequency. So the way I see it from Billy Hayes, who tutored me, is that you take a frequency of a place, say on the other side of the Earth, and you send the scalar waves at that frequency through the Earth to that place on the other side of the Earth. Before that, you spend 3 to 5 days laying out chemical trails filled with particulates. And then you have a very a ripe place that will absorb the frequency and resonate it. It's the resonation that produces the earthquake. Okay.
Hey, thanks for the presentation. That was great. Dr. James Giordano, who is a professor at Georgetown,
I know who he is.
And DoD advisor, has written pretty extensively about graphene oxide nanotubes as applied to neuromodulation technologies. And La Quinta Column, a research group in Spain, has claimed to have found graphene oxide in the COVID injections.
Absolutely.
I'm wondering if you know of any evidence that has found graphene oxide being deployed in these various aerosolized chemtrails. Yeah.
Oh, absolutely. In fact, I know one of their primary uses of graphene oxide is in the winter when they want to create that terrible icebox effect that we have a name for it. I can't remember it right now. But they use graphene oxide in particular for that. I'll have a pretty hefty chapter on graphene oxide because they call it the Holy Grail. And there are reasons why they call it that. And I remind you that if you ever heard Harold Kautz, the German scientist who I compare to some of the old mystics, Harold, he is the one who assured me that graphene oxide is the black goo. And it's a terrible name, the black goo, but it is very real, and I'm convinced Harold might be right.
Elana Freeland, big hand. Now, what we're going to be doing now is Elana's going to walk over to the area where Karen Elkins is continuing the live stream. Those of you that want to watch that, you're welcome to, but you're welcome to mingle until we begin the next official presentation at 6:30. So here we go. And I'm just going to hand this over to Karen.
Not too long ago, I had the pleasure of actually interviewing Elana, and she's quite the bit of information. Come on up. And you guys, if you have some more questions, don't hesitate to come in and ask. Come on, why don't you stand right here on that pink spot. So, okay, so here's my question to you. You want to tell us a little bit more about the nanoparticles, because I think they seem to grow, and they seem to be causing what I call these little white clogs and all kinds of nasty things.
Yes, the nanoparticles, the nanotech, think about it. The nanoparticles are natural, but if they are treated gain of function, you might say, by human beings, you can make them do extraordinary things because they have a certain consciousness. And their consciousness is a hive, I would call it a hive mind. Where I saw them operating with that one singular hive mind was in some drone footage that I saw taken of the California fires back in 2017. And that's where I saw them operating like a Roman phalanx. And they were being directed remotely from somewhere, I don't know where, to crawl up the side of one building and ignite it, and then scurry back down and skip the next two buildings. Oh, this just went off. Then they were able then to go skip 2 buildings and then start igniting the next fire. So that's the problem with this nanotech is we don't really know what it is, truthfully. We are creating a sort of a Frankenstein on a miniature level, and it has its own intelligence, I have to call it. But it's, as I said, you won't get a nanobot separate. It has to work with its compadres. So yes, this is probably, according to the inventor of it, Eric Drexler, is that his name, Drexler? Yeah, I think it is. He said that he sat on that invention for a few years because he realized that what he had invented is something that could would eat all of anything natural and leave a carcass instead of the earth. And so I take him at his word. He loved the nanotech because it can do extraordinary things, but there is something about it that is not of this world. So could it be from the world that they're trying to twin us to prepare us for in this big turnaround that is going on now? I don't know.
What's the twin world? What do you mean by that?
It's what I mentioned about what was the word I used? Sorry, I'm a little dazed here. It's where they take our digital imprint of us, like all the data that you're pumping out in your cell phones. By the way, I don't own a cell phone. It's a weapon system. I highly recommend that you divest yourself of it. I know it's very clever, and everyone is very attached to it, but not me. So, you know, the data that they collect, then they are able to put it into AI systems and make it into something other. And I think that our relationship with these things is very suspicious. We have to not sit around and talk to ChatGPT. We have to really do everything we can to remain human and really ask ourselves, what is being human? And am I prepared to make the sacrifices in order to remain human? That's kind of how I feel.
It was interesting. Last year we had Greg Braden here, and his whole talk was based on remaining human and what he feels all the technology is happening. One thing that you talked about was the Golden Dome. And so that's kind of like locking you into a particular field where you don't even have the conversation with your creator. And when you don't have the conversation with your creator, where do you get your aha moments? Where do you get your downloads? It's their replication of you, and it's almost as though they're playing God. Oh yeah. Yeah, and they're making sure you don't have one. Yeah. So it's interesting, and so the Golden Dome will keep you trapped, and so stay away from the AI. There is. What would you suggest we as humans who want to remain human and purely, 100% human, what do we do to counteract some of what you see? Because it seems so big, and
yeah. I think the very first thing to do to remain human is to really examine your electromagnetic footprint and see what you really don't need. It's not about fast movie downloads now. It's not about having cool technology that's kind of fun and the kids like, but it is very much about remaining human in your own environment. It's so subtle what happens. If I told you some of the things that happen to me when I'm asleep, it's kind of scary for me, but I keep going. Because I still have my brain, I still have my intelligence, I still have my morality, and this is a very, very important thing. I think these people, I think materialism has gone too far, and we have become defensive about thinking in terms of imaginatively thinking about the divine world and what it is to be a human being, a tremendously powerful species that is involved in a very special evolution. For those who don't know, I'm a student of Rudolf Steiner, 45 years now. I very much feel that I want to keep evolving, and I don't want what they want to do to us. They will take our free will, and it will not be us anymore. And that is just unacceptable to me.
It's very subtle, and the way that they're sort of navigating. There was a question, how do you detox?
Well, for me, here's how I do it. I feel, yes, the metals are the thing that you need to think about. First of all, you get all the lead out of your teeth. You get all the stuff that you've got some sort of, what is that called when you've got metal up your, huh? Yeah, you take it out, get it out. At home, I've never even owned a television. It's a mind control device. And I'm very familiar with the technology that has developed for the HDs and the big screen. You're basically asking the CIA or whatever you call it into your home. I don't have a cell phone. I know. I sound like I'm a Neanderthal or at least a Luddite. I'm not a Luddite. But I don't see the reason for a technology that seems to be sapping my energy and my humanity. I just can't really justify interacting with them. And that's how I look at them. Because these are beings of their own. These are not just things. They have something in them like the nanotechnology has in it. I don't know how it works, but I know that that I must really cling to being human. For those who believe in reincarnation, have you considered the possibility that if they take Homo sapiens and completely change it into a transhuman, how will you incarnate again? You will not be able to incarnate into something which is not Homo sapiens. We are married to that God-given creation. And I don't want to lose it. I really don't. I don't mind other species to a degree because it looks like you cannot stop these guys. But I definitely take the conservative path in this, and don't at all feel I can handle anything. I don't feel that at all.
There's a gentleman that has been very proactive with the chemtrails. Have you guys ever heard of Dan Wiggins? Dan Wiggins. You want to? He's amazing.
I really want to pass on that. I have nothing good to say about Dane.
Oh, you don't? Okay. Okay. Just feels like he's been on the campaign to help us become more aware. If that's what you call it. Okay. So here's another. If you want to say, if you have one more thing you want to say, because we have 4 more minutes, is there anything that you'd like to?
Well, yeah, I did want to show you those. I can't do the slides, though. I can't show you those 3 slides. But in talking about it, here's another part of the weapon system. Now, you heard Barry Trower. He said you can take HARP and you can send a frequency up to the ionosphere and then have a very exact place where you want that frequency to play out in a town in China or in the United States or anywhere in the world. The other thing I think of regarding the weaponizing of HARP is that it has this scalar interferometry aspect. And interferometry is nothing more than interfering 2 beams to cross each other. And where they cross each other is the power point. And you put that power point over.
we apologize, but no, they're cutting exact time. So we apologize for the live streaming here, but we thank you for coming and sharing. So.